Jonathan Allen, who is the co-author of the book Shattered about Hillary Clinton's failed presidential campaign, recently appeared on C-SPAN, and he had something really interesting to say about current DNC Chairman Tom Perez, specifically with what the Clintons instructed him to do.
Right now, the Republican National Committee's doing a lot better in terms of its fundraising, in terms of its coordination. The DNC is unpopular with its own base. Half of the Democratic Party, or roughly half the Democratic Party, felt like the DNC was unfairly tipping the scales in the last presidential election, trying to get Hillary Clinton nominated, trying to hurt Bernie Sanders. So you start with that bad blood, and really there's just been a clash between these two sides that has resumed. The hostilities that had been put aside at the Democratic Convention in 2016 resumed the minute that Donald Trump was elected. This huge battle for the soul of the Democratic Party between the Clinton-type folks and the Sanders folks. And Tom Perez is in the middle of that, and he's gotten very explicit instructions from President Clinton, as we write in the paperback extension of the original book. He's gotten instructions from Bill Clinton not to let the party go to the Bernie Sanders folks.
That was really telling. And it makes sense that Bill Clinton, in fact, did instruct Tom Perez to make sure that the Bernie wing of the party doesn't actually get power, because Tom Perez is doing things to make sure that progressives don't actually get power. I mean, just in the last year, at the end of 2017, there was a huge purge of progressives from the DNC. Anyone who wasn't loyal to him, anyone who supported Keith Ellison over him, even if they were on the DNC for years, he purged them. He kicked them off the Rules and Bylaws Committee and replaced them with stooges for not just him, but the Clinton wing of the party. So when Jonathan Allen talks about how Bill Clinton instructed Tom Perez to not let the Bernie wing of the party get power, it makes sense because Tom Perez was already doing it. But it's interesting to know that he's really following out the orders of Bill Clinton. Now, I do want to address some incorrect things that Jonathan Allen stated during that interview. He said incorrectly that hostilities between the Clinton and Bernie Sanders wings, that was put aside during the Democratic National Convention, but that's not actually true. I mean, throughout the whole process of the DNC convention, they were trying to silence Bernie Sanders delegates. Bernie delegates were protesting. They were walking out. It never stopped. I mean, people weren't able to put aside their anger and disgust with the fact that Hillary Clinton literally cheated her way to the nomination. I mean, you can't just put that aside. A lot of people still swallowed their pride and voted for Hillary Clinton in spite of her cheating because they didn't like Donald Trump. But make no mistake about it, the hostilities, the civil war that's been ongoing since the 2016 primaries, that never stopped. So I think that that's a really important point to make, because as he talks about the civil war in the Democratic Party, it really is a fight for the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. And if you are not a disingenuous person, if you're being truthful, if you look at public opinion polls with regard to the Democratic Party's base, all the policies that Bernie Sanders and progressives are talking about, they have an overwhelming majority of support among Democratic Party voters. So, I mean, you can't try to lie to us and say that the Clinton wing really has the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. I don't even know what they're arguing for. What policies do they care about? All they try to do is champion incrementalism. And when we criticize their lack of progressivism, they invoke identity politics to try to shame us and say that, well, you know, because we don't like Hillary Clinton or this particular neoliberal candidate, it must be because he or she is either gay or a woman. It's nonsense. They don't stand for anything. We stand for everything that the core base of the Democratic Party supports. So this is a civil war that has been going on and never stopped. Now, I do think that it's incorrect to characterize Tom Perez as someone who's in the middle, because he's absolutely taken a side. Again, he purged progressives from the DNC, from high-ranking positions of the DNC, people like James Zogby, and he replaced them with Democratic Party loyalists. And he hasn't stopped the DNC from making payments to Hillary Clinton's super PAC. So there's still very much collusion between the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign, or Hillary Clinton's team at this point, rather. So, of course, it's the case that Bill Clinton personally doesn't want the DNC DNC to stop being beholden and colluding with Hillary Clinton because he has a personal gain from that. As Hillary Clinton's super PAC makes millions of dollars from the DNC by renting out their list to the DNC, well, that helps Hillary Clinton, and of course through Hillary Clinton helps him. They're making money off of the DNC. They're still draining state parties. So they want to make sure that that gravy train continues, hence why the Clintons still very much have a large amount of influence and power within the Democratic Party, even if they don't have any political power anymore whatsoever. And it's not just Bill Clinton who's been trying to push back against the progressive wave and who's been clearly trying to defeat the progressive wing in the Democratic Party civil war, because President Obama was doing everything in his power in 2017 to pull strings for Tom Perez in order to defeat Keith Ellison's bid to become the next DNC chairman. He even reportedly made personal phone calls to DNC members. So Democratic Party leaders like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, they are doing everything in their power to make sure that the Democratic Party remains prehistoric. They're demosaurs. But as they do this, as they push back against this populist wave, they are pushing the party towards extinction. Because if you're against progressivism, then you are undermining the will of Democratic Party voters. Not just progressives, but all Democratic Party voters. Because again, if you go issue by issue, they support Medicare for all. They support tuition-free public colleges and universities. And when they do things like this, when they try to make sure that the Bernie wing of the party loses, this makes them more unpopular. It hurts the Democratic Party brand because just last week, a new Reuters Ipsos poll found that Democrats lost even more ground with millennials. And really, at this point, with the way that people like Barack Obama and Bill Clinton are trying to defeat the Bernie wing of the party, this populist insurgency, they're going to drive away an entire generation from the Democratic Party. It's hurting the party. So if Tom Perez really cared about the future of the Democratic Party, as he says he does, then he should do everything in his power to embrace progressivism, to embrace populism, and to actually listen and internalize what Bernie Sanders is saying. Because the Democratic Party, since they lost to Donald Trump, they should have done a lot of soul searching to realize how we can lose an election to a reality television show star. I mean, if you don't do any bit of introspection after that, then you're just narcissistic and it's going to be your downfall. So this isn't surprising to me, but it's still obnoxious to hear how Democratic Party leaders out of power are still trying to influence the party and fight back against the progressive wave that the new generation is trying to push upon the DNC. It's so frustrating. You had your chance, and now it's our turn. So fuck off, go away, let us have our chance, because you guys ruined the Democratic Party. Bill Clinton and Obama, under their leadership, the Democratic Party has been decimated. So now it's time to let the next generation take over. But unfortunately, the status quo doesn't want to relinquish power.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.